times used a lot of minerals they find. Ochre was a common one that they found from iron ore to mix up paints. With ochre, you can make red, browns, blacks, maybe some blues. And that's why a lot of the earliest structures in the United States, buildings that are 200-year-old plus, they're just not there anymore because the paint was very expensive at the time. The earliest paints in the U.S., which were probably early 19th century, they were applied with an oil-based paint. You had to put about 9 coats of this coating over the house, and then a hard shell coat that would make it look very rich. And rich was the key word in this because you had to be very rich to afford this process. It was extremely expensive. As the people realized that as you paint things, they do last longer. The paint protects the surface. The paint makes it look nice. Not only does it look decorative, but you can see what the clear coat does for Jason's cars. It's a very important process. Right around 1875, you started having factories that were making paints. These paints were kind of affordable, so more people painted their houses and their buggies. In Europe, painting was very important because they had big navies. They had to paint their ships to keep them from getting barnacles on them, and rotting wood and sinking out in the middle of the ocean. So paint is a very important thing to have. Right around the time of World War II, most paints were oil-based. And oil-based paints were kind of nasty. They were the best we had at the time. But whenever you have a war, there are always some processes that get speeded up. During the Civil War, everybody had rifles. If a trigger on your rifle broke, you have to take it to a gunsmith and have them carve a new one out for you because there were no interchangeable parts. Interchangeable parts came out of necessity during the Civil War, and everybody had a place they could go and say, hey, I need a trigger for this model infield. And here it is. They put it in there, and away they go. During World War II, there were a lot of chemical processes that were improved. Now we have alkali oil paints. Alkali paints have a mixture of acid and alcohol in them as the base. You have a lot of oil-based paints that were being replaced by easier to manufacture latex paints. They have powdered latex in them. They have things that are easier to use. After World War II, people started painting their own houses because latex paints were starting to become the way to make it easier to happen. Before then, professional painters would paint just about everything. But after that, people could do their own painting. Now, it's 2012, and most oil-based paints for houses are being phased out. You just don't see many of them around, not because they were such a bad product, but because the latex paints are just so good now. So a lot of latex paints for things like, even for metal fences and such, the latex paints work better than the oil-based paints because of the way they dry. They dry like a rubber coating instead of a hard surface that cracks and peels. So anyway, those things are really up and coming. I have
Brian, you can tell we need an IT guy.
This is one of the houses we did recently. These folks had moved out, and they were going to rent their house. Well, it wasn't really updated. They had wallpaper in quite a few of the rooms, the kitchen, some of the wallpaper was peeling off. It was really looking dated. They had some people who came in and said, boy, we'd rent your house, but we hate the colors. So they got me to come over and paint it. This is the before picture. There's the after picture.
Really? Very nice.
The lady wanted this color for the whole house, which was a very nice neutral color. If she should decide to sell her house, it would probably sell a whole lot better. The bottom color, I told her, I said, just go one shade darker for the bottom color in your dining room. We do quite a few dining rooms that way. If you have a dining room that doesn't have a chair rail, we can put a chair rail up for you and paint it like that too. So she really liked it a lot. The lady I was dealing with was in Florida, and we would send pictures on the phone back and forth, so she could see how it looked. But that's a before and after picture. Really made a big difference. Now, when you have wallpaper on the wall, there are some processes, there are all kinds of chemicals you can put on there to make it dissolve the glue better. The best thing we found to do is to put hot water and Dawn dishwashing soap in our paint sprayer. And we spray the paper with it, go do something else, spray the paper again 15 minutes later, keep this process going for about an hour. And after you soaked it really well for about an hour, it peels off pretty easily. For the spots that it doesn't peel off, sometimes people have repaired the wallpaper, they put a little bit of Elmer's glue behind it. You can't help but peel off part of the drywall too. But we are really good at repairing drywall. We can cut drywall out, put new patches in to where you never see the hole was there. A lot of this had to be repaired, and even after we would repair it, we would have to do a primer coat over the whole room. When you put the primer coat on there, a lot of times you can see some of the imperfections. Then we put 2 coats on top of the primer. With the first coat, you can see even more of the imperfections. So it's constantly going around and touching these little things up. Some of those imperfections might be up real high, where when we're up there painting the crown molding, we'll see them. But we go ahead and repair them because we don't want imperfections in the house. If we can see them, probably the homeowner can find them sometime too. But anyway, this is another room in the house. This room had some really bad cracked ceilings. Can you all see the crack up in there? That kind of tape that we put in the house is kind of a metal tape. It has a real thin layer of steel, kind of like a tape measure, inside embedded in the tape. And the house had settled. The house is 25 years old. Just the settling will cause it to crack. So the ceiling is a stomp ceiling where they take a brush and do this number. So we poured out all the tape on both sides, replaced all of it, put new stomp texture on it, and painted the whole ceiling, and now it looks like it was always there. So they were thrilled about that. And the room also had a border that interfaced right here between the 2 different greens. Of course, the whole house is being painted, so we said, oh, what the heck, we just take that out too. So we changed all that. And that was the same neutral color throughout the house. I like the before and after shots though. Sometimes customers will ask us to change their ceiling fans. We do that too. Change ceiling fans, light fixtures. This was their kitchen. Kitchen required a lot of work because the wallpaper was put on when the house was first built, and they put the wallpaper right on over the drywall. And it caused a lot of problems that there was a lot of imperfect drywall underneath it. It took quite a bit of doing to get the kitchen to look good. And you can see the cabinets are the same, but they even look better because the kitchen looks so nice now. We start with the way down. This was a lawyer's office in Sevierville. They called me up. She said, my husband's birthday is on Monday, and I was wondering if next Friday you can go down there and paint his office. So when he shows up Monday morning, he'll go, whoa, somebody painted my office. So we do things like that too. This is definitely the same house. She asked me towards the end of the day, said, hey, can you take care of my deck? So we painted it with a latex thing. This is another house we did. We had to tear up the ceiling. I don't know if you can see that, but we had to replace the insulation up in there. That's the one that made me feel like Jesse Jackson, because I told the customer, I said, hey, look, I'm doing the installation of the insulation. Those are real words. I didn't make those. This is the drywall. We put the drywall ceiling back in. Again, matched the stomp texture finishing and painted the whole house. So it looked a whole lot better if you never knew you had a problem. But anyway, just more pictures of houses that we've done. This one required several coats of primer because they had a red wall and a blue wall. We wanted to cover with the neutral colors of the house. It came out looking a whole lot better than it did. But this was a house where we had to move all this stuff. then we put it back up after the paint. But that's all. Okay, thank you for your attention.
Perfect timing, wow.